Do you love ginger? It's one of those ingredients that can transform a dish, and the good news is that you can grow a never-ending supply of it yourself. All you need is a single piece that you can pick up from the fruit and veg aisle at the supermarket. In this video, I'll show you exactly how to turn one piece into a thriving plant that you can harvest year after year. What you see in front of me looks like a knobbly root, but it's not actually a root at all. This is the rhizome of the ginger plant, and it's the part we cook with. Rhizomes are a type of underground stem, not roots, and that's what makes them special. They grow sideways just underneath the soil surface, sending down roots for anchoring and for water, and sending up leafy shoots that do the photosynthesizing. This sideways creeping growth is how the plant spreads and reproduces, and it's exactly that feature we're going to take advantage of. Each little segment of rhizome has the potential to grow into a whole new plant. So with a single piece from the shop, you're essentially holding a living stem that's ready to start multiplying. Think of it a bit like a potato. You can eat it or you can plant it and grow more. Before planting, you want to choose your piece of ginger carefully. Look for a nice chunky section with several swollen buds, often called eyes. These are the growing points where new shoots will sprout. And the more eyes your piece has, the more shoots you'll get, and the more rhizome growth you'll end up harvesting later on. You don't need to peel it, and you don't necessarily need to buy organic. Sometimes supermarket ginger has been treated with a growth inhibitor to keep it from sprouting on the shelf, but in my experience, most pieces will still happily grow. If you want peace of mind though, grab an organic piece, but I have grown plenty from standard supermarket ginger without too much trouble. Now, where should you grow it? Well, if you live in a nice warm climate that doesn't experience frost, then you can plant directly into the ground and let it spread. The only issue, of course, is that you'll lose control of where it creeps, which is why pots are usually the better option. Growing in containers keeps things nice and tidy, makes harvesting easier, and allows you to bring the plant inside when temperatures drop. As for containers, terracotta pots are my top choice. Because terracotta is porous, it lets excess moisture evaporate through the sides, which really helps prevent waterlogging. Ginger absolutely hates sitting in soggy soil, and rot can wipe out your harvest. Plastic or glazed pots can hold on to too much water, so if you can, stick with terracotta. Now, ginger does prefer a pot that is wide and preferably shallow rather than deep. Remember, the rhizome creeps out sideways under the soil surface, so a broader footprint gives it plenty of room to spread. Depth isn't as important, so don't worry about a tall pot. For the soil mix, drainage is everything. Ginger hates sitting in soggy conditions, so you want a light, airy potting mix that holds moisture but never waterlogs. I use a simple blend of 5 parts compost to 2 parts perlite. The compost provides nutrients, and the perlite keeps things nice and free draining. Without that airspace, your rhizome is much more likely to rot. Okay, so to plant your ginger, I'm just going to fill our pot about 2/3 of the way up. And then, whoops, broke my bit of ginger, never mind. And then we can grab our piece of ginger, and then we're just going to lay it horizontally on top of the surface, pat it down. So remember that ginger is basically a stem rather than a root, so it wants to kind of spread and grow horizontally and fill the container. So that's why we're laying it horizontally on top of the surface of the soil. And then next, we're just going to cover the ginger with some more soil. Maybe a few centimetres, you don't want to bury it too deep. So that's about 3 scoopfuls I've given there. And then pat it down. And then you just need to give it a good water. So I've got my watering can here. And that is the foundation set. Now you need the right spot. Here in the UK, ginger appreciates as much sun as you can give it. So I keep mine here on the patio where it soaks up the light all day. If you're gardening in a hotter climate, then do give it some protection during the hottest part of the afternoon. Bright light is essential, but scorching midday sun can stress the plant. Because we're growing in containers, the plant will eventually use up the nutrients in the potting mix. So a slow release fertiliser like bloodfish and bone works well, or you can give it a weekly liquid seaweed feed through spring and summer to really encourage those rhizomes growth. Ginger is a hungry plant, so feeding makes a big difference in the final harvest. With the right warmth and moisture, you should start to see green shoots emerging within a few weeks. These look a bit like bamboo or ornamental grass, only much smaller, much more delicate. Once it's up, treat it like you would any other container plant. The main job is keeping an eye on watering. In warm weather, a good soak every couple of days will stop the soil drying out. Just don't keep it constantly wet, because that's a surefire way to lose the rhizomes to rot. So after around 4 months, you can start harvesting what's called baby ginger, which are tender, juicy pieces with thin skin that don't need peeling. If you leave it a little longer, about 8 to 10 months, you'll get mature ginger with that familiar punchy flavour and tougher skin that stores well. Now harvesting ginger is pretty easy. You've got 2 options. So first option is to go rooting for your ginger pieces that are still in the pot, and then snapping off a piece that you need for your cooking, and then leaving the rest of the plant in the pot to continue growing. And then option 2 is to tip the whole thing out and then see what you got, and then kind of harvest and then replant. So I'm going to tip this out because I'm quite curious to see how much ginger I got. I planted this indoors, I think it was beginning of spring this year. So it's been, and then I moved it outside at the end of spring. So it's been a few months in this pot. Normally the ginger is totally ready to harvest when the leaves die back and go completely brown. So we're a little bit early maybe, but I'm curious to see what's going on. So I'm going to try it and tip it out. So as you can see, it's got a nice healthy root system. And now, this is the piece of ginger. So I'm just trying to remember how much I planted and how much has grown. So I reckon that I planted that section in this year, and I think it's regrown all this. It might be the other way around, not entirely sure. So what you can do, you can say you want to harvest a piece like that. So you can take that indoors to your kitchen, harvest that, and then you can, whoops, I've now got 2 pieces. So you can pop that back into your pot with all your soil and stuff for it to continue growing. And that's the beauty of ginger. You can do that year after year and you'll have an endless supply of ginger. Now something to keep in mind is that ginger is not frost tolerant. Once the weather cools in autumn, the leaves will naturally yellow and die back as the plant goes dormant. So don't panic, it hasn't died or anything, it's just resting. So cut the foliage back, ease up on watering, stop feeding, and then if you've got a heated greenhouse, and that's perfect for it, but if not, just bring the pot indoors and tuck it into a bright spot. Come spring, as the temperatures rise, it will burst back into growth and be ready to head outside again. Once you've started growing ginger, you'll never need to buy it again. Just keep replanting a piece and the cycle carries on year after year. It's simple and honestly one of the most satisfying crops you can grow in a pot. Now if you enjoyed this, I think you'll love my video on growing potatoes in a cardboard box. Potatoes spread in a similar way underground, and that method is a brilliant way to get loads of food out of a really small space. So you can watch the video right here.